Hi, I'm Rachel Dreskin from Seasonal Brooklyn. Seasonal Brooklyn is a blog dedicated to bringing you recipe ideas and tips for eating as fresh, locally, and sustainably as possible. So right now I'm going to show you how to make a wonderful winter butternut squash soup. So what I'm going to do first is roast the butternut squash in a 400-degree oven for about 20-25 minutes in a little bit of olive oil. And the reason why I'm roasting the squash instead of just sauteing it on the stovetop is roasting brings out a really nice deep flavor from the squash. So again, I'm going to use a heavy bottom pot for this. And I'm going to add in about a tablespoon of butter. And I'm going to add in the 1 medium onion that I diced up and give that a little stir. Once the onion has been in there for a minute or two, I'm going to add in 3 cloves of minced garlic. So after the garlic and onion have been sauteing for a few minutes and they're softened and nice and fragrant, I'm going to add in a little bit of spice. And I'm going to add in about a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper into the soup. Now this is going to give the soup a real kick. So now that I have the cayenne pepper in, I'm going to add about a teaspoon or so of fresh minced sage. And I'm going to start adding in my liquid. I'm going to use 1.5 cups of organic chicken stock and 1.5 cups of filtered water. Then I'm going to raise the temperature on the stove a little bit to bring that up to a simmer. And I'm going to add the roasted butternut squash to the simmering soup stock. I'm just going to bring the soup here up to a boil, and once it's come to a boil, I'm going to turn down the heat and let it simmer for about 10 minutes or so to let all the flavors melt together. I'm going to start ladling the soup into my blender to puree it. Now you can puree it in a blender or you could use an immersion blender, whichever you prefer to do. And then I'm going to cover it with a kitchen towel, and then starting on low, I'm going to start to puree the soup. So that's the first batch of the soup. So I'm just going to transfer this into a clean pot over here. It looks a little thick right now, but that's fine because we're going to thin it out with a little bit of half and half in a few minutes. Okay, so now I have the pureed soup on a very low heat here. And one of the last steps is I'm going to add in about 1/2 cup of half and half. Now the final thing I'm going to do, you could leave the soup at that, but I'm going to saute up a few wild mushrooms to put on top. So I'm going to add in the mushrooms that I sliced. And again, I didn't run these mushrooms under water. I just lightly brushed them off with a damp towel. I'm just going to give these mushrooms a toss. Now that the mushrooms have browned up, I'm going to season them with some kosher salt. Now I'm ready to plate up the soup. And I'm going to top the soup with a few of the sauteed mushrooms. And to finish off the soup, I'm just going to top it with a little bit of the minced sage. And there we have roasted butternut squash soup with crispy fried creminis and shiitakes.